So we've looked at the different types of questions that you can use in a quiz, and now in this video we're going to look at actually how you create a quiz in Moodle. So again, as always, first thing to do is make sure that you have turn editing on activated. You're in the editing mode, and we are. This thing is red, so that means we're in the editing mode. And then you go down to your unit that you want to work in, and we're in unit 4. And just click on add an activity or resource like before and select quiz. So far so good. You'll notice that we get a information screen that looks exactly like all of the other information screens and the resources that we have used before and activities that we used before. And once we put that in, that's when you will start to see the actual quiz functions. So I'm going to entitle this quiz Unit 4 Quiz, Making a Quiz. And you'll notice that this description is not mandatory. I'm going to put one in anyway. This quiz is to demonstrate how to make a quiz. And click display the description. Now, you'll notice that with the quiz, there are a number of options that are not available in the other activities and resources. The first being timing. So with timing, there are three things really that you can set. First of all, the open and close date, that is when the quiz becomes available and when it is no longer available. So you set that date here, and you have to make sure that you click the enable box in order to be able to set that. I'm not actually going to set it for this quiz. The second thing is the time limit, and that is how long you will have to take the quiz. And you'll notice that the last video where I was actually taking the quiz, you could see the countdown timer going while I was taking it. So I'm going to set this one to 15 minutes also. And the next one tells you what's going to happen when your time runs out, and it says that the attempts will automatically be submitted once time runs out. You won't have to go and click submit, save, etc., etc., etc. And then finally, there is a choice to submit a grace period. And so the submission grace period is if you've actually set a close date for the quiz. This allows students to submit the grade late if you want to have a late period. And you can actually determine whether the marks are deducted or whatnot for that at a later date or in other options. So the next option then is grade, and it asks how you want it to be graded. And the first one, we don't have any categories set up for our grade book, so it's just going to be uncategorized. How many attempts? Usually I put it to about 2 or 3, whatever. And then the grading method, and this is if you are allowing more than one attempt, whether you're going to take the highest, the average, the first, or the last attempt. Notice that if I had set this to 1 attempt, you would not be able to adjust the grading method because you're only giving them one attempt to take the quiz. Okay, so I'm going to put it back to 3 and leave it at highest grade. The next thing is the layout, and it asks the order of the questions to be displayed as shown on the edit screen. So when you put them in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and if you have this selected, it will also come up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Or you could have them shuffle them around, okay, shuffled randomly. I'm going to leave it as shown on the edit screen because I oftentimes like to have the questions following the subject order as it appears in the course syllabus. The second thing is when to put a new page. Now, some people like to have one question per page. I prefer to have like 10 questions on the page so students can go back much more easily. They don't actually have to click back through the questions in order to get back to it. Other options are whether you can have a free or sequential navigation. That means whether you can go back to any number or you have to go just back to the previous or to the next one. Because I'm putting 10 questions on the page, it doesn't really matter. I'm only going to have probably 10 questions in the quiz anyway. Question behavior. So shuffled within questions means whether you want the answers shuffled or whether you want them always to be in the same order. So for a multiple choice question, if you have a 4 possible answers and you put them in the order A, B, C, D, if you have them not shuffled within the question, they're always going to appear in that same order, A, B, C, D. However, if you select shuffled within questions, that means then they will be shuffled each time, which is good because, you know, if a person takes a question twice, they won't just remember what the order is. They will have to go through and read the question again to make sure they're getting the right answer. How questions behave. Deferred feedback is what I prefer, or you could have any of these other. Adaptive mode is where you allow students to take to select more than one answer until they get the correct answer in that quiz. And normally with adaptive mode, penalties are assigned, but you can also select adaptive mode with no penalty. I just leave it as deferred feedback. That's what most people are familiar with. Immediate feedback means that as soon as you finish the question, it tells you, well, that's close, but you could have tried this, that, the next thing, right after you do the question. Other things, each attempt builds on the last. That means that if you take the test 3 or 4 times, it's going to only allow you to take the questions that you didn't get correct the second time. I usually don't select that just in case they guessed those questions the second time. It'll give them an opportunity to actually answer them the following time. Review options, I just usually leave this to default, but there are a ton of options that you could select. Appearance, show the user's picture. Yeah, I'm not really, again, I leave that to the default. Extra restrictions on attempt. Now this is important if you're allowing the students to take the quiz more than one time. Students cognizant of, this is the plagiarism statement, and this is one that I actually always select, and that is that they must sign the plagiarism statement before they are allowed to take the quiz and before they are submitting the quiz. Other things that you could put in passwords. Enforce delay time between the first and second attempt. I usually put this in at least to an hour and sometimes to as much as a day. So I'm going to put it in to 1 day. That'll give them time to actually review before taking that second attempt. Browser security, you can actually set to put it in a secure mode. Student, yes, and so I require them to acknowledge the plagiarism. You can also restrict browser keys so that they can only maybe click 5 or 6 keys when they're answering the questions. This is useful if it's just multiple choice, but if you're going to have any free answer questions, it's not going to work. Overall feedback, this is if you want to put in any particular feedback for particular percentages that a student might get. So let's say that you want to ensure that students got 70 above in order to pass the test, and if they got sort of between 60 and 70, you might put something like, you've really done well, but you've not quite met the grade. You need to study XYZ before and then take the quiz again, or whatever the case might be. So it's just targeted feedback to a particular grade range. And then these other 3 are pretty much the same as always, with the one exception, activity completion. You can actually require them to get a passing grade or to have attempted all of the questions. So those are some of the options that are available to you when you're creating a quiz. So when you're actually going to create the quiz, let's go to Save and Display. It's going to take you directly to the quiz. Now, in order to add the questions, you have to go back to Edit the Quiz.